What's going on, guys? It's fight season MMA, and today I wanted to do a video special to Thanksgiving talking about the fighters that we are most thankful for as fans in the year 2024. I'm not going to talk about every single fighter within the organization because I am thankful for every single UFC fighter that there is, but I want to kind of talk about some great moments, some fighters that have done some incredible things, stepped on short notice, done this and that, and truly have made me a thankful individual to be able to record this content and to do everything that I do on a daily basis revolving myself around UFC. I think that the UFC is one of the most fascinating, incredible sports that there is in the world currently, and truly just to pick a couple fighters that I am grateful for is just something of personal preference. If your favorite fighter isn't on the list, I'm sorry, I wish I could be able to include every single fighter like I said, but I do want to keep it down to my favorite or some of the best moments in the UFC in the year 2024 so far, and kind of talk about the fighters that I am most thankful for having within the organization this year. Before we jump into the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. But without further ado, let's jump into the video talking about the fighters that we as fans are most thankful for in the year 2024. Starting off with the fighters that I am most grateful for, I want to start off with Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier has given us two fights in 2024 that have been amazing fights. He stepped in to fight an up-and-coming contender inside the UFC lightweight division, and actually was an underdog in his co-main event bout with Benoit Saint-Denis, and Dustin Poirier showed the resilience and went in there and KO'd him in the second round. Also, Poirier gave us an incredible title bout at UFC 302 with Islam Makhachev, and one of my favorite fights of the year. The technical bout between those two individuals was absolutely insane. Islam is one of my favorite fighters on planet Earth, but you gotta have two people to tango within a fight, and Dustin Poirier brought his best in every single category out there versus Islam Makhachev. Another fighter I'm grateful for, Ilya El Matador Topuria, had an incredible 2024 where he knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in round 2 at UFC 298, and he knocked out UFC legend Max Holloway at UFC 308, being the first person to ever knock him out/down. Ilya Topuria has put on some of the most stunning performances in 2024 alone, and he is one of the best fighters in the organization right now. And if 2024 didn't have Ilya Topuria, we would be robbed with some of the greatest knockouts in UFC history. Furthermore, Diego Lopez saved UFC 303 by jumping in as the co-main event on 2 weeks' notice. Brian Ortega also jumped into that co-main event on 2 weeks' notice, and he missed weight. Dan Ige jumped in to fight Diego Lopez as that co-main event on 2 weeks' notice. Lopez also fought Super Sadiq Youssef at UFC 300, knocking him out cold, as well as fighting Brian Ortega in the grudge match at UFC 306, where he was able to get that win. Speaking of Dan Ige jumped in to fight at UFC 303 on 2 hours' notice. One of my favorite moments from this year. Dan Ige also had a loss against Lerone Murphy at UFC 308, which was a very close but fun fight, and also torched Andre Fili in a co-main event of an UFC Fight Night card earlier this year. Now, what else can I say about the current UFC light heavyweight champion, Alex Poatan Pereira? Alex Pereira has fought 3 times in 2024 and now records the shortest span of 3 consecutive title defenses within a specific time frame. With like 175 days, he stepped in and beat Jamahal Hill at UFC 300 when that event didn't have, a solid main event. He knocked out Hill in the first round with an incredible left shovel hook. UFC 303, headlined by McGregor v. Chandler, was then taken off because McGregor broke his toe. Pereira stepped in and KO'd Yuri Prochazka with a left high kick, ultimately knocking him out with ground and pound. UFC 307, another one of those bouts that didn't have a clear main event. Alex Pereira fought Khalil Roundtree Jr., an incredible fight where Alex Pereira ended up getting the 4th round KO. If UFC didn't have Alex Pereira in 2024, that would be 3 main events that would not be able to be saved, and UFC 300 would look incredibly different. Now, Renato Moicano has fought 3 times in 2024, and one of my favorite fighters, not only because of his fighting style, he went out there and 10-7'd Benoit Saint-Denis in their first fight at UFC Paris, but he's also a funny guy in the mic, man. Moicano wants money in every little thing that he does, and you look at those post-fight press conferences, and every time he's able to win, he talks. It's something absolutely incredible, and Renato Moicano has gone on an absolute tear this year. Shera Magomedov, his 3-fight year in 2024, all in the Middle East. Five at UFC Saudi Arabia, where he was able to knock out Andre Tricoli. He then co-main evented against Michel Olashechuk, getting that decision win in a very good fight, but then also topping off his campaign in 2024 with one of the most impressive knockouts I have ever seen with that double spinning back fist. Sharamagomedov has had a great breakout year in 2024, and I cannot wait to see his future inside the organization. Also, Carlos Prates has had an incredible 2024, 4 knockouts, 4 fights, and knocked out Li Jingliang as the first fighter to do that. Knocked out Neil Magny in a main event this November. But Carlos Prates is an absolute weapon as a Muay Thai and MMA fighter. He has beaten the greatest Muay Thai fighters, and now transitioning over to MMA has only given him an opportunity that is going to be amazing for the future. Max Blessed Holloway, even though he did lose that fight with Ilia Topuria at UFC 308, he gifted us probably the greatest knockout besides someone like Sharamagomedov or one of Ilia's at UFC 300, defeating Justin Gaethje with a knockout 4 minutes and 59 seconds of round 5, 1 second remaining of the fight, flatline Justin Gaethje, and something that even the referee Mark Goddard couldn't even contain his excitement about. Also, Dricus du Plessis has defended and gained his belt in the UFC 2024 calendar year. He beat Sean Strickland in an incredible fight to start off 2024 at the UFC 297 main event in Toronto, Canada. And he also beat Israel Adesanya in the main event of UFC 305, an amazing fight that was taking place in Perth, Australia, and a fight that everyone loved to see. Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis, the Battle of Africa, finally back. Charles Dubronx Oliveira has 1 loss and 1 win this year. He had a razor close fight with Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 300, probably one of the most fun fights on the card. Genuinely someone that everyone loves to watch. Now, Oliveira just fought Michael Chandler at UFC 309. An incredible bout to be able to see him go in there and absolutely torch one of the UFC's best lightweights. Khamzat Chimaev has fought once in 2024, but he gave us one of the most impressive performances, beating Robert Whittaker in under 3 minutes, if I can recall. Khamzat Chimaev had an incredible face crank to beat one of the best UFC middleweights the organization has ever seen to set himself up with a title shot. And lastly, the last fighter I want to touch, Yuri Prochazka stepped in on 2 weeks' notice to fight Alex Pereira at UFC 300. Even though he got knocked down in that fight, that was an incredibly fun one. But one of my favorite fights of UFC 300, Yuri Prochazka beat Alexander Rakic by KO in the second round. An absolutely incredible fight. Yuri was walking through shots, throwing a barrage of shots himself, and truly is one of the toughest warriors within the organization. All these fighters have a special place within the 2024 calendar year, and to highlight one of them would be kind of discrediting what they've done to the UFC as a whole. You know, just want to talk about the fighters who really have shown something and brought something to the game, whether it's a funny comment, a master performance, knockout, or submission, saving a card, or anything in between. Each one of these fighters I am grateful for as a UFC fan. I could talk about so many different individuals inside the UFC, but just being able to highlight this, I just wanted to say I am thankful for every single fighter within the organization, and just to talk about some fun moments is a very fun thing to do. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the UFC content, and please fill my comment section with all your favorite moments of 2024 and all the fighters that you're grateful for. There isn't an incorrect answer here. It could be someone like Alex Pereira, who's one of the biggest superstars in the organization, but another fighter who I'm super grateful could be someone like Marcus McGee, because he's had a great 2024 year and filled the year with some incredible performances himself. No matter how big the fighter or how small the fighter, I am truly grateful for everyone who steps in the UFC octagon, just to be able to go in there and see everyone fight and create their own moments, and for me to be able to have a fun time watching the sport is ultimately my favorite thing. And for the organization as a whole, it is an amazing, amazing feeling to see people go in there and truly work on themselves and work on their own passions of fighting to be able to give out and show to the entire world. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the UFC content. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications. That is the best way to stay updated and notified about UFC content releasing every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.